So, welcome to our information session. Tonight, we will be going over everything you need to know about being a candidate on CA's board of directors or on a village board. I'm Julie Miller. I'm the Director of Communications and Media Relations at CA. Shawn MacInnes, our President and CEO, is here with us. Shon McCollum, our Senior Vice President and CFO, is online as well. And we have Collin Sullivan, the CA Board of Directors Chair, Laura Mayton, Hickory Ridge Village Manager. So each of these folks will be going through a little bit of information that will help you understand the role of being a board of directors member and a little bit about Columbia Association so you can understand the organization better and see if it's a fit for you. So thank you so much. Your participation in this is so critical to not just participating in this information session, but taking what you learned tonight and hopefully putting forward to run in our village election. So I will turn it over to Shawn MacInnes.
All right. Thanks, Julie. Greetings, everyone. I wanted to kind of kick us off by giving a little bit of information about Columbia Association. I think many people know, but in case you don't know kind of what Columbia Association and Columbia encompasses, I'll start off by who we are, which is the next slide. And I give Julie Miller credit for finding this quote from Jim Rouse. I hope Columbia would never be finished and that the community would continue to develop and that the residents who would come to call Columbia home would be actively engaged in the process. And I think this quote encompasses a lot. We want to get more people engaged, which is the reason for having this online meeting, but also Columbia is a very, very developed city now, and it has come a long way. And we're going to be 60 years old next year. And here at CA, we are focused on the future in these next 60 years. So it's an exciting time to be part of this organization and part of this community to help kind of facilitate that. And with that, I'll talk about kind of what the community is. We're over 100,000 people. We are a city, the second largest city in Maryland, if we were a city. Over 25,000 residential properties, over 1,100 commercial properties. Just at Columbia Association alone, we have over 1,500 employees. And we have usually over the year about over 50,000 people attend our Lakefront Live events. So we're a very large organization. We're broken up into a few different categories. The first is community programs and services. This encompasses our wellness and fitness, sports and recreation, youth and teen, art and culture, and our archives. Along with that, we have about almost 500,000 visits to our CA pools alone, and those pools are open for 3 months. So you can imagine the amount of capacity and the amount of people visiting. And you can see some other highlights here. We have over 2.2 million visits to our wellness and recreation areas, 187,000 visits to our Columbia Ice Rink, and same with tennis and pickleball, over 152,000. So very robust community. We have over 18,000 memberships. And that equates to about over 55,000 members that just participate in our facilities. Next is our community operations, and they are responsible for maintaining our parks and pathways, play areas, open space, all of our facilities, which are over 60, our buildings and grounds, event services, and our logistics around our events, and also our environmental sustainability initiatives, and also our community development and real estate. So quite a robust operation as well. You can see what they oversee, which is 3,600 acres of open space, 95 miles of pathways, tot lots, 171, 284 footbridges. I won't go through all of this. You can see this, but this just gives you a glimpse of the depth and breadth of the Columbia Association organization as a whole and what it encompasses and what we're responsible for. So if you are interested in being a board member and involved, you get to kind of be interested and participate in kind of helping Columbia Association facilitate and maintain all of this. Next is just some numbers for community operations on an annual basis. Last year, FY25, there was over almost 28,000 linear feet of pathway replaced, 756 native trees planted in open space, and over 10,400 residents engaged in sustainability programs. So we encourage participation and collaboration, but we're also investing in the future. And next. All right. And then some of the more mundane but critical functions of Columbia Association are administrative functions, and that's my office, Office of the General Counsel, Audit and Advisory Services. Shawn McCollum's here to talk about finance. We have human resources, information technology, procurement, and risk management. So all of those are kind of the back office elements that keep this organization robust and running smoothly. And now I will hand it over to Shawn McCollum, our Senior Vice President and CFO, to talk, give you a little financial overview.
Thank you, Shawn. Let's go to the next slide. So I just want to talk about the annual charge, and hopefully everybody on the call knows that we got two sources of revenue. One being the largest portion. I'm going to share with you a slide that will show the pies that make up that. But annual charge is for the 68 cents per hundred, and that's been for the 23 years unchanged. And then also there's a cap, as you all know, because you're paying this every year. The cap is 3.5% since 2017. However, I wanted to highlight to you is that the maximum ceiling is 75 cents per hundred. And then again, from a cap perspective, it is 10%. So as you can see, this organization kept that rate at 68 cents for 23 years in a row, and that cap at 3.5%. So even though we have some growth and the organization did a great job maintaining those levels and supporting the community, keeping those rates as they were. Next slide. So this slide give you a perspective that if you look at where the money comes from, we are a $90 million organization. And if you look at the slice of the pie chart, you see that at the bottom annual charge and in purple. And about 34 million or 37% of total revenue is coming from annual charge from residents. And then right above is kind of bluish on my screen is 18 million or 20% is commercial properties paying into the revenue pool. And then we have some small $2.4 million, mostly interest revenue. And then, however, I also want to highlight there's a big pie that's yellow. This is where, as Shawn talked about, our community program services, the pools, the clubs, and gyms, and this is where the membership rates apply. But it's a big portion of our revenue source, $37 million or 40%. So as an organization, this is a huge part of our revenue stream that allows for us to do above and beyond what the residential or commercial annual charge would allow us to do. Next. So this is kind of another way of looking at the same data from prior. On the left side, here's where the cash is coming in. So we have roughly about $54 million, of cash coming in, and a big chunk of 51 million being the annual charge, and 2.5 million being the other revenue, which is mostly interest revenue. And then on the right side, uses of cash. A bigger chunk of the use of cash, as you can see, if you go from bottom up, the community operations is using 20 million of that. And we also do a lot of, as Shawn went through all of those, 3,600 square foot of open space, the bridges and toddlers, the pools, the lakes. That all takes a lot of money to maintain and better them, right? So as you can see in FY27, we are planning on spending $15.4 million. And then the right above that, you also support the village communities, about $6 million. And also as part of doing the CIP, we borrow money and debt service, we got to pay the principal plus the interest. So that's another $5.4 million. And then as you can see, it kind of gets the community program services. Obviously, the community program services, they generate a lot of revenue, but they also have expenses. So on a net basis, they also use $3.7 million cash left over. Then you can see the rest of the stuff, but gives you an idea. And also on the left side, when you look at the pie chart, right, there's a gap, there's a white line that shows you where the cash deficit is coming from in terms of operations, being able to generate enough cash from what we do. That's all I have, I think, right, Julie? Thank you.
Thank you, Shawn. So we'll turn over to Collin Sullivan to talk about the board of directors and roles and responsibilities of joining that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Julie. So before we begin, I just want to set a little bit of context to kind of follow up what Shawn MacInnes was talking about. Again, almost a $90 million organization, over 1,500 staff and team members with CA. So this is a large organization. And the thread that I want to make sure that I'm needling is that the role of the board is to set strategy. This is not an operational board. We have fantastic staff that help with that day-to-day operation and that work. So we, as the board, look at the strategy for the organization to work with the president, CEO, and the senior leadership team. Next slide, please. So with that being said, there are really kind of three pillars for those roles and responsibilities. We have the duty of care, loyalty, and obedience. So when we say duty of care, I think of this as just making sure that you're ready, right? So this is being able to review the materials before board meetings. We have what we call the packet, which includes the agenda, supplemental materials, that's posted usually the Friday before our board meetings, and having board members review all of the information to come prepared to meetings is essential. But duty of care also means having conversations with the president and CEO, having conversations with the senior leadership team, having conversations with other board members, with the community, to really know where the direction and strategy of the Columbia Association should be headed. I think duty of loyalty is pretty self-explanatory. This is making sure that we're putting the interests of the Columbia Association ahead of your own interests, whether that's personal, your employer, your friend's employer, your friend's work. So I think that that's really important to be thoughtful about what the duty of loyalty looks like. And the last one is the duty of obedience. So again, going back to what is the role and purpose of the board of directors, that was established through the Columbia Association's guiding documents. So including the charter, the bylaws, and different board operating procedures. So making sure that there's a clear understanding that we follow those rules for the Columbia Association, but also for nonprofits in the state of Maryland. Next slide. So again, while the board is setting strategy for the organization, there are three key things that the board does have responsibility for year over year. The first one, which the board did last Thursday, I believe, right? We looked at and passed the operating and capital budget for the next fiscal year. So we just passed the FY 2027 operating and capital budget. So those conversations start in June, which if you're a new board member can be a little intimidating, but it is about hitting the ground running and beginning to understand what is in the operating and capital budget and what are the priorities that need to be set for the next fiscal year. So again, that process starts pretty early on in the term, but those final votes typically happen in February or March. The second component is working with the president and CEO. So the board's most important responsibility is hiring an excellent president and CEO, and providing evaluations to that individual, both at a midterm point and at the end of the year evaluation. So the board will convene to have those conversations and give the president any feedback for improvement. And the last one is really planning for the future. And again, this is looking at a strategy perspective, thinking about what policies need to be in place to make sure that the organization is successful for the future, and other things like what might that look like, what capital investments that we have to consider and think about long term. So those are some of those conversations that are really important for those responsibilities. These are our current board of directors for the FY26 year. I do want to take a moment for those who may not be aware. Different villages are on a different cadence and cycle for elections. So when it is an even year, Harper's Choice, Owen Brown, and Town Center, they will hold elections for their Columbia Council representative seats. For I'm sorry, did I get that? I got that wrong. Let me back up. It is, I just had it open a second ago. Let me make sure I have it right. So for odd number years, it's Dorsey Search, King's Contrivance, Longreach, and River Hill. For even years, it's Harper's Choice, Owen Brown, and Town Center. The exception is that Hickory Ridge, Oakland Mills, and Wild Lake, those are every year. I hope I got that one right. So
Mhm.
those, okay, great. So with that being said, with the villages that are on the odd even year schedules, those are 2 year terms. And then, like I said, Hickory Ridge, Oakland Mills, and Wild Lake, those are every year. So those are 1 year terms. So every year there is a possibility for a little bit of a shuffle with the board of directors composition just because of the schedule that the villages have. You can go to the next slide. I just want to close out with some, other commitments and expectations. Again, attending all of the board of directors meetings. The board is actually having conversations right now about what that could look like next fiscal year and moving forward. But typically, this can look like 1 to 2 board meetings per month, with the exception of August. And this includes broader community conversations and opportunities like town halls that aren't so formal, and we're having the opportunity to speak with more stakeholders in the community. There's also an expectation to attend your village's village board meetings as well, to give your village board any updates that are happening from the board level at CA. We might have additional closed meetings that are in compliance with the Maryland HOA Act. Like I mentioned, a core responsibility of the board is to conduct an evaluation of the president and CEO. Those meetings happen in a closed session, so we have to identify time that's going to be conducive for all board members. So those are some of the things that might be additional meetings that aren't regularly scheduled or on that schedule that folks might see. We also have additional board committees. So we have the board operations committee, we have the audit committee, the risk management committee. So board members are usually expected to serve on different committees, and some of those committees have different cadences as well. Sometimes they could just be a commitment that's once a year, it could be once a quarter. So just being mindful of what those commitments for those subcommittees are as well. And like I said, it's just so critical that as board members, we have conversations with the senior leadership team. So being able to set aside time to meet with CA's senior leadership team to understand what's going on in the organization and what level strategy would be appropriate and how we can move forward together. So I think with that, I'm passing it on to Laura.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Mayton. I'm the village manager for the Hickory Ridge Community Association. Good to see you tonight. So I'm here to talk about the role of the villages and the village board. So, there are 9 villages and town center. We all enforce covenants. We all advocate for our residents. We host village events and partner with other villages for Columbia-wide special events. And the villages offer programming like classes and lectures and things. And we manage our community and neighborhood centers if we have neighborhood centers. And we also communicate with the residents. So the village elections. Each village has their own election process. CA doesn't play a role in the election process. However, every village elects one person to the Columbia Council, which then becomes the CA Board of Directors. Like Collin said, some villages have 2 year terms for the Columbia Council. Some villages have 1 year terms. It varies from village to village. So you should reach out to your village to find out exactly what happens there. Also, each village's voter eligibility is different. It's dictated through our Articles of Incorporation, and our Articles of Incorporation allow different people to vote in different villages. So we want everyone to vote, but not everyone can vote. So my village, for example, we allow 1 vote per property, and some other villages allow anyone over 18 to vote. So that's all available on your village website, who can vote where and how. Okay, so the timeline is here we are in the middle of early February and early March. My candidate information is available on the Hickory Ridge website, the Hickory Ridge information. Other villages nomination period may not open till early March, but pretty much by early March, every village has their nomination packets available on their websites. Generally, early to mid-March, the packets are due, and Hickory Ridge, ours are due on March 16th. Other villages have different dates, different election committees set different timelines. And so you check out your village's website to see what those requirements are. And then generally between mid-March and mid-April, the villages, if there's a contested election, host a candidate night. So the candidates are either in a virtual setting or an in-person setting where they can answer questions from members of the community or answer pre-scripted questions developed by the village. It's a good way to get to know the people that you'll be working for. Our election day this year is Saturday, April 25th. That said, nearly every village has absentee ballot voting and such. Some villages even have electronic voting, so keep an eye out for all the methods of voting in your village. And then the board orientation that's listed here on Thursday, May 7th is the orientation for the Columbia Association Board of Directors. Individual village boards will have different orientation schedules and different board meeting schedules. And just kind of to tag on to what Collin said earlier, as the same way that the Columbia Association Board has their set meeting dates, each village has their own. In Hickory Ridge, we generally have one board meeting a month, a second one if necessary. And if you were a Columbia Council representative from our village, you would need to attend those as well. And then, as it says here, Thursday, May 14th is the first organizational meeting of the CA Board and the annual meeting of the Columbia Council. Each village has its own village board schedule, and their meetings would fall on different dates. So for this year's election, everyone will be electing village board members, and 7 villages will elect their CA representatives every 2 years. 3 of us elect representatives every year. And the village boards, as Collin said, doing CA board representatives in 2026 are Harper's Choice, Hickory Ridge, Oakland Mills, Owen Brown, Town Center, and Wild Lake. So if you are from a village that's not on that list, you wouldn't be able to run for the Columbia Council this year. However, you could run for your village board or run next year. All right, and that's it for me.
I think that wraps up everything information-wide. A lot of what was shared tonight, you can access at columbiaassociation.org/vote or on this QR code. We break down on that page. Each village has their own page, and any information that is available is posted there in terms of what seats are open. So it was recapped in this session, but if you want to look again at what's available, how many seats in your village, and if your village has a seat on the Columbia Council, it will be there. Your village really gets into the details though. So we link off to the village page so you can learn more about voting and really get more thorough details that live there. So that page is a great gateway to learn some cursory information and then dive into your village page for all the details. Thank you everyone for your time. We recorded this session, so we'll share it. It'll be online for anybody who might have missed this. If you want to share and follow along with us as we promote voting in Columbia, and we encourage you to take a look at what you need to do to represent your village and ask any questions from what you can find online.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Good night.